Welcome, ladies, to another episode of Mastering Menopause Metabolism with Andrea Tornis, Chief Hormone Executive, and we're ready to dive in. So today we're going to talk about the biggest FU to the system is taking care of you. And I'm going to talk about what that would actually look like. So let's get ready. All right. So, what does real rebellion look like for a woman in midlife? Okay. Let's face it. We're not teens anymore, smoking cigarettes and, drinking beers and skipping school isn't really what the vibe we're going for at this point. It's not loud. It's not angry. It's deciding that you matter enough to demand real answers. Um, in this episode, I'm going to get really personal about the system that failed me, even when I asked for testing, had the right tests, I thought. And this was a season when my family and my business needed me the most, and this is why, one of the most and the biggest ways to say F you to the system is take care of yourself and actually treat your body as the goddess that it is to get results. And that to me is true rebellion in the state of the world today. So, when we protest or post things, it's not really rebellion, right? I mean, it's just words. It's just us saying, I think it's taking radical care of yourself in a system that's designed to keep you confused and compliant. That actually makes things pretty heavy. And this is what I'm going to show you how to do and how I did it myself. So, the system we are in right now, ladies, was built to manage you, not free you. So, standard healthcare is actually designed to do one thing, and that is disease management. They don't want that to get out of hand. There's a certain moral compass that, obviously, if things tick up into disease, that they will have to take over and manage things, right? Symptoms, reduce the progress of the disease, et cetera, extend your life that way. But it doesn't have anything to do with optimization and true health. So that's a big difference, right? Because when they tell us that our labs are normal or within the right ranges, that means that we're not ticked up into a disease that they feel the need to treat right now. And that's really all it does. But it doesn't say you are optimized to age well and to go through the process of aging well, being healthy, and you're going to continue to rise up. And this is why women in midlife are the most underserved demographic in medicine because we haven't been studied because, think about priority, in the political realm of things in our society, women have only been able to vote for, like so many years, if you really think about it. So, we are kind of down here on the totem pole. And then not to mention, obviously younger demographic is going to get more, research insight. So, and men care about procreation and, having to worry about that. So like getting women to where they are, could do not birth support, like have birth control, and they take that, that was like a big part of where women they gave us care, right? Like that's one of the first things they're like, birth control, you can get on birth control, you can control your periods, you can do this. And it's a man's world, truly, And so then think about, as we're in childbearing years, that's also something very important to society. So they're going to kind of, do some more studies, that kind of thing along those lines, around those things. But then we get into our 40s, 50s, 60s, and it's kind of like, they're declining in some areas, but they've lived a good life. They've, had their children. We're not going to study that as much. And that's honest to God what's going on. And so now, and there's also political reasons we know that they knocked down, the right for us to have hormone replacement therapy, bioidentical, which in a lot of realms, this doesn't make any sense because they give us randomized IUDs for birth control, also birth control pills, which are not bioidentical. with no qualms at all. Like they're candy. Like every 16-year-old in the country can get them. Okay. Obviously, because they're trying to control population and a bigger problem in that way. But as far as what it does to our health, not a lot is there. So for some reason, Black Box went on years ago on hormone replacement therapy for women in perimenopause, menopause. They've taken that off. They've said, you know what, really, none of those studies were valid. So now here we are, and I think we're getting some more studies. But when they do our labs and tell us we're fine, it keeps happening. And what it really means is that we're not ticked up into a disease that they have to treat. That doesn't mean that next year it's not going to kind of go to the wayside, that our health might be declining, that we're not feeling as good. None of that. It just means that they don't have enough data to say, I'm going to treat this disease. So normal range versus optimal. So if we talk about the metabolic gap that nobody explains, and like basically, why does our blood sugar become more irregular? Why is our cholesterol ticking up? Why does our thyroid not function as well? These are all declines, and they don't really have an answer for it unless thyroid is often to kind of too high of a range, like disease. So they'll give you levothyroxine, but they won't look at like why your thyroid isn't working anymore. Also, they'll give you statins for the cholesterol that has gone up, ticked up high enough, if it's high enough for disease. And they say, oh, it's a cardiovascular risk. But they don't look at why that's happened. Like why, why is our cholesterol up? They will now kind of do the GLP thing if you've gained weight, but they don't really want to look at why. And so this is kind of the idea. There is just this huge gap. Nobody's explaining. They don't have time for it. They don't have the infrastructure. They kind of have the old model of things that they keep rerunning. And now they're adding some addendums here and there. But it's kind of like we're getting the same rhetoric, right? Like your labs are fine. Everything's normal. Don't worry about it. We don't test hormones because they change too drastically, et cetera, et cetera. So kind of, a little disheartening for sure. So this is why I have done so much research because, over the past, 8 years, I myself went through some major changes and I sold my gym and I figured out like women have a lot more complexity than just calories in, calories out, and do some strength training and they're going to be fine. Everyone's a little different. And so I really dove in and said, what are some tests that can look at these things? And the Dutch test and the GI map are basically a way to advocate for yourself and say, I want those tests, but it's not going to be done through your general practitioner. You're going to have to find a naturopath. So that was actually another complication. It was like, well, can I send people to naturopaths? It's like, I don't really like that whole thing either because they don't do a plan with you. Basically, they will test certain things. They're almost like lawyers. And then they're going to charge you for, every herb you're going to do. They don't have all of the habits. They don't have the coaching there. We have to get the lifestyle in order. And so what I figured out is women really need kind of a myriad. They need therapy, they need a therapist, they need a coach, they need a nutritionist, they need a personal trainer, a naturopath, all in one with a plan to fix these things. Otherwise, what's the point? So when we look at our Dutch test, we get to see cortisol, cortisone, neuroinflammation, B6, B12, the patterns of those things, how our body's metabolizing our estrogen, how our body's metabolizing progesterone, what the ratio is of that, and then also testosterone. Like, are we utilizing it? What pathways our estrogen goes down, so on and so forth. So it gives us this huge spotlight onto our health. The other thing that you can get is the GI map, because most women don't even know these tests exist, but basically it's a stool test that can look at your microbiome in a way that you can see, do I have antibodies for, autoimmune issues? Because that's going to change a lot of things and give us a really direct path. Do I have something like H. pylori that's actually kind of dangerous that we need to treat? And I can't tell you how many times we've looked at people's guts and been kind of surprised, wow, there's a lot going on here. So that is another thing we do. And so basically, when I got the Dutch and the GI map, it shed a lot of light on everything because I was told from my general practitioner that everything looked fine. And I was a woman who worked out and, I was probably on the right track. But then I was like, you know what, things don't feel like they used to. But that was basically like, there's nothing we can really do about it. But I'm like, hey, I'm gaining weight. I don't feel good. My body was telling me a completely different story, but there was no like in between. And so what was actually happening is that, my results and my biofeedback wasn't being flagged, and then there wasn't proper testing to look at those things because of the old kind of system. And so the realization, for me was the problem wasn't the data, it was who was reading it and then what they were going to do next. So that was where I had to advocate and figure out for myself, like, all right, with adrenals that are fatigued, that happened from me under eating and over exercising. So actually everything that I had been telling women to do for years, I was doing myself and seeing the law of diminishing returns. Also, figuring out my micronutrients was a huge part of this too. And so that's how getting the real interpretation and a real protocol changed everything, because then I learned how to eat more for my body. And I also worked on my stomach acid to make sure it was digesting the protein. And that was huge for me to understand that. And then I stopped all the crazy, spin classes I was doing at that time for my body. And this isn't for everybody, but like for me, it was damaging. And so once I kind of did that and let the scale go up a bit to heal, that was when now things have gotten so much better over that last 8 years. Like I actually eat enough food for my body. I, got my BMR up, so more muscle equals higher scale. But now when I go to cut, it's much easier. I understand I don't live in the 16% body fat era anymore either, which is also not good for your body. So many things like just changed it. And so I then got everything under control. So, the choice point is I didn't have anything to basically pour out of because I wasn't feeling good myself. And then I was trying to help other women with their bodies. And I knew in the background, like, I don't even really know what's going on with mine. Not to mention, I had a lot of stress at home. I talked about, my family needed me a lot for my son had some mental health issues. We have 5 boys. One of my sons was struggling. He was in and out of therapy appointments, doctor appointments, things. The thing that I thought was the worst was like to take care of me because I don't even have time for that. But once I started doing that, it actually was one of the most loving things that I could do for everyone around me, honestly, because getting to the bottom of this and treating my body the way that it is worthy of really spoke volumes to the rest of the family too. And it gave me more energy to deal with all these situations. Like a lot of us have aging parents. Our kids are, it's supposed to be easier, but it actually is a little bit, oh, that's cool. A little bit tougher because they have new challenges and things you can't fix like you used to. You can't just dress them in the outfit that you want and get them the breakfast they need, get them to the bus stop. Like your life's a little different now. When somebody has a breakup or has a mental health issue or is feeling depressed or they lose their job, or they're driving you around in the car and they don't know how to drive yet and you're in the car. These are all like monumental stressors. And so, I found that connection between my hormonal health and my capacity to lead, show up, and not fall apart, okay, and keep my business running. So, self-care is not a spa day, honestly. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm going to get a massage or I'm going to, take a break. It's like, no, it's advocacy, it's testing protocol and refusing to accept that you're fine when you're not fine and taking care of yourself. Like, I just feel like that's the biggest FU to the whole thing. It's not going on social media and saying what you hate about this political party. I'm sorry. I do feel you. I feel the frustration everybody else does. But what are you going to do about that? The biggest thing you can do about that is take care of you. Take care of you. Take care of your circle, because that's where the biggest ripple effect's going to go for you, not staying in your head, being on social media, like, woe is me, I can't do anything, I don't feel good, I'm just going to try another diet. Like, just forget it, man. Please, I want you to ask harder questions. Get the tests that match how you feel, not just the standard panel. Find someone who can interpret and build a protocol, not just hand you a report, hand you a med. And stop waiting to feel bad enough to deserve answers, because why are you going to wait? Just do it right now. You don't need permission to want more than survival, ladies, okay? So here's the final wrap. The system is counting on you to stay quiet. Stay quiet, stay confused, stay compliant. Don't. Shout it out. Ask for help. You are worth it. And you are in the third of your life, and it's the most important part. And I believe we have more to offer than ever. We have more time, money, and we also need to feel good in our bodies so that we can play with our grandkids, travel, give advice. We have a lot of wisdom. We built up to this stage. It's not time to say, this is it. My body's a wreck. I'm going to go with it. Don't do that, please. This is exactly what Midlife Hormone Mastery was built for. So I want you to DM me the message Dutch on Instagram to get started. We'll start out in a phone call. It's our blueprint call. It doesn't cost anything. And literally I do these 3 to 5 a day with ladies. We make a plan, show you what to do. And then if we can plug in some of our labs, our program, we do. And we talk about it. It's real. And you actually heal your body in a 4-month midlife hormone mastery program. Yeah, something that all connected. It's synergistic. So the most powerful thing, ladies, you will ever do is decide that you matter. Let's start there. All right. See you guys next week. Looking forward to seeing all the comments, seeing you in a call. All right. Andrea T.